I would like to show my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which these interviews take place. I would also like to respectfully acknowledge the Wangal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work.
Because there's a lot of research studies about nature connection to improve your well-being by a bit much. So, and in some disability, it helps the stimuli in the brain to something is sensory, like hear, feel, or taste, or something like that. It's very important.
I'm Prema, the host of this podcast, What Can We Do? In each episode, I speak to someone or an organization that's making impact. You will learn about the issue, why it exists, the challenges, but most importantly, how you can be a part of the solution. My hope is that you can take away 2 to 3 tips each episode that will support you in your helping journey. Today, I have with me Mathew Townsend, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Nature Freedom.
Yes, I'm Mathew Townsend. I'm the founder and the CEO of Nature Freedom. So we're a social enterprise and non-profit organisation based up in Brisbane, running social, inclusive, outdoors and environmental activities for people from all walks of life, including those with disability, who are coming from vulnerable backgrounds and who are young. So with the opportunity for them to explore nature and hopefully some community engagement and employment opportunity.
Can you tell me about why you set up Nature Freedom?
So I have a disability. So I grew up with them living at school and in university with challenges in my hearing and social barriers around understanding the communication. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I was falling in passion with nature through a recreational camp, which is for people with hearing loss. They do held annually every year. It was all out in the bush area of northern New South Wales, and it's really, really beautiful. So back then, like spending a whole week doing some rock climbing to canoeing, kayaking, bushwalking activity during the week, it get me really close to nature. So I often felt left out of environmental and outdoor organisations over the years since when I was a child, and also struggle find employment, especially if I'm already qualified, have volunteer internship experience. So that's where Nature Freedom start by creating that space where no one else does.
When you started Nature Freedom, what did you have in mind?
Well, it's a little bit like it's my experience with disability. I thought that there would be a lack of awareness around inclusion. So I thought inclusion is a really big deal, not just for people with disability. It's about when everyone wants to be a part of something, especially in that shared interest, common interest, or then passion when people get on. There's so much potential in that space for starting up a business to create something in that space. And that's why it's a big difference right now. Because looking back, it's not very much that now it works out. So what I thought that some sort of work around co-design and understand how design thinking should work with people in very different diverse backgrounds. So I did involve a little bit around social justice, but I realized I need to step back a little bit and see a little bit more professionally, understanding building a relationship with government, stakeholders, collaborators, all that kind of stuff. It's very important stage there.
What type of programs does Nature Freedom have?
At the moment, so back in there we had inclusive paddling, which is this a brand of inclusion, outdoor activity for kayaking and canoeing. So it's more accessible and the people can walk life in there. So it's been very popular since the start of National Freedom. Now we have contract with local government running environmental craft bushwalking program. It's been successful about almost 6 to 8 months now for around school holidays period focus. It's been very successful trying to bring people without disability or with the other identity with people with disability. So that was really good. But we did a lot of benchmarks, community events like Clean Up Australia Day, National Tree Day, Youth Week, Mental Health Week, all that. It's all about like that awareness, and so it's a focus on outdoor adventure experience and trying to bring people back to nature. So this year is going to be another step in progress to build that foundation with partnership in this community, where they look at like how to support young people, get engagement, inspiring, in that kind of way to get at nature. There's so much to do, you know.
When you launched Nature Freedom, what was the response like?
Well, I did a little bit of volunteer experience with the land care for that time when I first started. So I had some supporters around that space to help me to, when you start out the business, to go incubate the ideas. So I had some support in that space, and which I'm still friends with them today. They figured I'd watch my journey from there to now. So they have some sort of engagement with other people, potentially like good contact with people, and starting from scratch is really like getting myself out there more, let people know within the industry, outdoor Queensland, for example, land care, Australia, and where all that was first started. It started to progress with all that like channeling with the stakeholders. So we've got a lot of contact now that actually been a lot more of organic approach. So yeah, it started really, really small. It's like with people you already know or within the network.
What was the response like from your patrons? So, the people who come and participate in your programs?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, that one, because when I first started, I was a sole trader. It's because I thought on my own around this issue. But then over the years to that point in time, I'm the only one person I know who have passion with nature. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna hire myself and do what I try to do my best with that. So when I come to the first inclusive paddling event in August 2018, that was the first community event. And then as people saw the promotion online, I went through like a network of outdoor Queensland, some disability network that I'm already involved in. They came along. And then we just sat down after the kayak canoe. We just kept talking about, that's made me realize there is more people out there too. Like they have a story as well, and they love about the environment. And I come across this, which is happening to be my friend of mine now. He's vision impaired. He's love about climate change, social justice area, and it's just how we found out. 4 or 5 years later, he's still with us. He went to the joining the activity just Saturday, just then. They see that last week people respond. It's about the interest and what's captured it. It made me feel like I'm not alone on this.
How many events have you run to date, and how many people have participated over the years?
So I'll probably have been at least about 50 events then. Um, and probably over 250 participants join, including the regulars that come in return. So it's getting there. Yeah, so I'm still crunching the numbers at the moment about social impact measurement. And now we got team and volunteers that work with us. We got team members. So it's just about crunching the numbers.
Is Nature Freedom volunteer run or are there paid staff members?
A little bit both, but there's currently only one paid staff at the moment because it's just a bit hit hard by COVID the last 2 years, getting in and out of lockdowns and stuff. So we're mostly run by volunteers. So we have a director and the board team, including advisory members. So they do voluntary basis, their time commitment per month. And we have two volunteer teams, so which is very recently grown. We have 3 teams on the marketing communication side. So one of their team members has been with only one volunteer for a year and a half. And then we have new teams just started in bank activity coordination for helping out participants with some limited mobility or physical disability and the activity, as well facilitating their workshop. So that's expanded too. So we have 5 volunteers and it's still growing at the moment. It can be any moment. We'll have an email now. I asked myself about what I learned about finding the right people. So I find it very important in my journey as well. I struggle finding the right people. It's not because there's no numbers out there. So I'm both an employee as well as an employer because I have another job. I just came from, literally sat down from home, So, employers always look for skills and experience. Yeah. So that's just standard, like in terms of selection criteria to qualification, which is mandatory to that. So what I learned that I kept focusing on looking for right people about a year ago. So I kind of regret that situation that I should have focused a little bit more about their attitude and personality and their passion. I should have interviewed people around that question about why you want to be a part of the team, that what's your passion, what you're hoping to get more out of it. So the team members now have it actually work out very well and they're very happy and they're excited getting along each other. It's because I focus on their passion, their personality, and their attitude, and that is very important. I will probably send you a bit of piece of art if you listen to this.
Yeah, so it's important to find people that can align with your values and have that same passion. How did Nature Freedom adapt during COVID?
Yeah, well, when the first lockdown started in 2020, we couldn't do anything. So, online is not really our option. It's because it's about getting out of the house and doing something. So, so when the lockdown started in March 2020, it didn't come back until August that year. So since then until this year, it's been up and down a bit. Some events have been cancelled or moved. I have asked one of the government grant to push forward the equitable report 4 times, and yeah, it's crazy. So now we had a controversy that where we are, especially this year and beyond, we're able to manage that this is the new normal. So, but there is no change in how we accommodate people when you're outside. It's because it's more isolated from crowded places or the indoor places. So we tend to avoid that.
Even though you have designed a organization to include people who are traditionally left out, it is actually for everyone, and that's how other organizations should be working?
Yeah, that's right. It's just trying to send you the message that because in the business world, if you're looking at the community disability providers, for example, you look at how their business model sets the support for a specific identity or disability, they've taken a lot of profit out of it. So because that's how systems work. So more importantly, it's like, yes, like you said about trying to include people who feel safe. That's the most important, and also give them a chance to explore about an environment at the same time, because there's a lot of research studies about nature connection to improve your well-being by a bit much. So and in some disability, it helps the stimuli in the brain to something is sensory, like hear, feel, or taste, or something like that. It's very important in non-artificially type environment. So if it's like when you're indoor, it's not really that progressive because they get overwhelming. So especially with someone on the autism spectrum or something with ADHD, and then it's really important to get them feel something more natural. So that, that was my concern with large providers that actually not be, not imitative enough in that space. But that's what the message we're try to make it more inclusive, because people have no chance to learn about each other, like a story or experiences that could reduce pre-assumption about their behavior or communication style.
What are your plans for the coming years? Perhaps where do you want to be in 5 years as an
Okay,
organization?
yeah. All right. So at the moment, we are working on expansion on other adult activities under similar branding of inclusive paddling. So we're launching inclusive bushwalking program in April during the Youth Week. So that's a very important benchmark for us. So we've got a lot of stakeholders jumping on that already. That's one. Because inclusive paddling have been running up to 6 times a year, so we're trying to give it another benchmark. Another thing is about creating employment and training opportunities where you have people who want to be outdoor instructor, the guide, around ecotourism, indigenous engagement. Um, so we have working with our partners to do training for them, so we can create more application in the West space where that's very big thing, and it's a big deal as well. You know, disability and employment rate is a bit low in Australia. Um, and the other thing is we have been thinking about like resource management around, because it's a little bit of a passion myself about reducing waste issue. So I thought that there would be another employment opportunity to create there as well. But it's not very much core focus already at the moment. You just want to get that inclusive branding out there more to get the people to know more about what we do rather than mixing things up. Yeah.
How can people support nature freedom or find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so we're pretty much everywhere online, so you can check out our website at naturefreedom.org.au, and you can check it out on Facebook and LinkedIn. There's some ways to help donate us. So we've got a donation page on our website.
The last question I would like to ask is, why is nature freedom's work important? And what is the value of co-design?
Yeah, good question. So, so my previous statement around the branding and values in inclusion. So we're looking at like a big picture where in Australia, in terms of education, employment, or even community, what I felt in my journey leading towards starting up Nature Freedom is like, where is the space for people like us to be involved? So, and then I can't change people thinking or attitudes or belief or opinion. But the problem is about what you're saying, design thinking. It's very limited. So I have no capability to how co-design works. So, and I thought I'd come and learn in one workshop. I learned about co-design. It's like, this makes sense. So the co-design, I thought we should have a little bit more democracy in this space. We involve people with disability in consultation, meeting, or someone had a voice and say how they can feel included. And that was the biggest point in my first year running the organization. It's really about listening to other people and learn from them, and that will give you a best position for your leadership. So this is what I feel missing in the whole Australian society. We need a lot of catching up around how to make education, employment, community a bit more inclusive. Not by tokenish, we usually read online, but practically, actually, where you see the people really involved.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe or follow it on social media. Your support will help this podcast reach more listeners. This podcast is produced by Samuham Media.